Project Management Insights, providing project managers with professional development in the interpersonal skills areas of leadership, team building, and communication. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Project Management Insights. As you'll have gathered by now, my discussion with Jason Scott was quite extensive in terms of the areas that we covered. And so today I have another piece of that conversation, and this is us talking about what is project failure. This was an interesting question that Jason asked me about my perspective and take on what project failure is. And I won't say any more. I'll let you dive into the conversation, and then we'll talk some more after you hear this piece of the chat that Jason and I had about our definition of project failure.
Yeah, in my
experience.
Let's talk about that for a quick second. And I'd like to get your opinion. I hear, obviously in our business, project management, we hear failed projects. And I've done a lot of reading. I've read a lot of research on reasons projects fail. But from your perspective, what is failure? I feel like that's this super ambiguous thing, right? People refer to a failure, but did the project get finished? What was the failure? So from your perspective, like why do projects fail and what does failure look like?
So for me, what I've come to understand is that project failure is all about lack of team that we're talking about here, that cohesive use of the joint knowledge, collective knowledge and information that's available from the people working on to make the change happen, which is what a project's about. It's about lack of clear communication. And again, you spoke about that in terms of clarity and understanding. And it's about unspoken expectations and assumptions. So it's not about any of the standard things that we talk about in the project world of scope, budget and timelines. It's not about that at all. It's about the other things that are the soft things and the people related things that make the difference. And oftentimes the project goes off track because of that lack of trust we spoke about, the being the boss and not the leader. Those key things are all of the things that for me create project failure, and project failure in terms of delivery that's not expected. That's what I call failure. So there's an expectation and an assumption of a delivery, and then that doesn't happen.
So I made a list the other day of 7 reasons I believe that projects actually fail. Mm-hmm. And when I facilitate brainstorming sessions, what I find people jump immediately to all the reasons that we can't win, all the impediments, all the risks. And so as a facilitator, I'll write them all on the board, and I'll put a title above it that says risks, obstacles, and I'll let everybody get it out. And then I'll erase the title of risk or obstacle and write things we need to solve for, right? Things we need solutions for.
Absolutely.
And so in identifying the 7 reasons that projects really fail, these are the 7 things that I feel like my team, right, project leaders should be mindful of. And I just love your take on it. So number 7, and I'll go all the way to the number 1 reason projects fail. So number 7 is the law of physics. 6, self-interest. 5, confirmation bias. 4, cognitive dissonance. 3, apathy. 2, egos, and number 1, unreasonable expectations.
Absolutely.
None of these things are technology. None of these things are process,
no.
Right? All of these things are people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. People related. And the thing is, when we step into that role as a project manager, often we're not thinking about the people. We're only ever thinking about the outcome.
The thing that needs to get done.
Absolutely.
But it's the people that are going to get it done. Right. Yes, and this is the fundamental shift that I want to be a part of driving, and that's that a project is just an idea. A company is just an idea. A business is just an idea. Fundamentally, it's people that realize these ideas that make these dreams come true. and to somehow try to navigate all this while ignoring the people instead of putting them front and center is the other reason, I think, the fundamental reason that projects fail.
Absolutely.
Because you're trying to make the project successful instead of helping the team succeed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Totally agree with you 110%. You're not going to get disagreement on me with that one. And as the listeners will know, I mean, this is why Project Management Insights, the podcast, is here, because we're talking about all of these people-related skills and people-related way of interacting in order to support project managers to be successful, for the team to be successful and deliver successful projects, because ultimately that's what the expectation is, and that's what the expectation is that will happen. And yet oftentimes they don't have the understanding of how to go about doing that. And so yeah, this is why our discussions are important, to be able to support them to understand, perhaps to shift their thinking on the way that they operate in their role, so that they can work better with the team and get the desired outcome that they're after.
All right, so you heard our definition of project failure. Is that what you thought? Is that where your head was? Because I imagine, having been in that space myself and starting as a project manager, that's not what I thought project failure was all about. My focus in starting out as a project manager was all about scope, budget, and timeline, because they're the things that are stressed as critical and important when you do your project management certification. They're the things that are focused on from a reporting perspective all of the time. Your project control board wants to understand those key aspects because that's what they think a project is all about too. And yet, as you've heard us say, it's not. It's actually about the expectation of the business about what they are going to get as an outcome or a deliverable from this project that you're managing. And that, as we said in our discussion, all comes down to people management. How you can get the best out of your team, how you can get your team to work cohesively as a group, as a team, and how you can set aside your own personal biases and ways of thinking and habits and ways of interacting with people, so that you can be the leader that you are meant to be in your role on the project. And I'm not going to say as a project manager, because as we've talked about in the previous discussions, the previous pieces of this discussion that I've had with Jason, project leadership is about leading a team. It's not about managing as such. And so the one key takeaway that I want you to get from this is that you can make a difference by focusing on the people. Focus on the people in your team. And if you do that and shift the way that you operate and shift the way that you interact with others, then you can only ever find success and be successful, because ultimately the team will work with you to deliver what it is that the business is expecting, and you can't help but be successful. So think about it, and I'd be interested in any comments that you have. Post some comments on Twitter, send me an email, anything that you like in terms of commenting about whether you agree or disagree with us here, because maybe you disagree with us, and I'd be interested in hearing that as an outcome. Well, thanks again for listening to this week's episode of Project Management Insights. Remember to subscribe so that you receive the notification when I post the next weekly podcast, and they're generally out every Tuesday morning, unless I have planning issues myself with life and the way it operates. But at the moment, you should be fine that every Thursday morning in the USA you will receive your Project Management Insight latest episode. And I look forward to talking to you more next week about more of these people-focused aspects, people-focused project management, and that's what it's all about. Until next week, enjoy this week in Project Management Land. Thank you for listening to this Project Management Insights podcast. Be sure to visit projectmanagementinsight.com and sign up for our monthly newsletter or to receive updates on upcoming training.